All right, Mr. Michael Lawson, welcome to the Channel CEO podcast. How are you, sir?
Hey, Kevin. Good. Nice to see you. Again, thanks
Good,
for
good.
inviting me.
Yeah, we're just talking, 'tis the season for, colds and, all that fun stuff. So folks that are listening, bear with me here. I'll try to spare folks go on mute if I have to. So your team was up at IT Nation or down at IT Nation for me last week. I was out there and did pretty good attendance. I think relative to the fact that we're right in the middle of an election cycle and we had I think DattoCon the week before IT Nation. Kind of real crowded, but it seemed you guys had a very prominent spot. You guys got a lot of traction and activity, so I'm assuming that you guys had a good pull through and big response from the industry.
Yeah, it was pretty exciting sort of event for us. It's one of our primary ones now, and yeah, we had three of our team go across from New Zealand, which, and for the listeners, is I think if you're lucky, a 26-hour flight. If you're unlucky, it's like around 30 hours. But no, it was a really good show, really good turnout. And even though it's smack bang in the middle of an election week, but yeah, our guys came back and were really excited. We were really fizzing about it, so that's good to hear. It's about as good as you can sort of wish for. And
Yeah.
yeah, lots of good leads, lots of good introductions and whatnot from people in the industry. So yeah, I think IT Nation is going to remain our sort of key event of the year, definitely.
Yeah, there's definitely you can tell some solid engagement between the industry and the vendors, and I think they had that situated. The structure of the event was pretty well done because I think a lot of the vendors got that really solid face time, and it wasn't fragmented or spread out. But yeah, I can see why that would be a key event for you guys. So kind of getting into your background, right? You're a serial entrepreneur, right? I think we'll get into couch
Oh
dropping,
man, I hate that.
but
I hate
prior to
that
that,
title. I don't know when I got that title, but it's not as flattering. It's not as flattering for me as it would seem. But yes,
I think it's kind of cool. But go back, you're CTO of LineWise. What was that? What was that
yeah,
endeavor?
I founded LineWise. LineWise was a totally different beast, but effectively, I built some technology, some internet filtering technology, quite a while back, that really specialized in solid reporting for internet connectivity. So effectively, you can tell what kids were doing or what anyone on a network was doing online, regardless of where that traffic was coming from. And we did it in a way which meant it was actually interpretable by someone who's not a tech, not a sysadmin, which, excuse me, I'm also getting over a cold, which was relatively revolutionary, right? So we, could tell that, okay, this student is currently using YouTube and is also on Facebook, and then allow teachers in a classroom to actually stop that traffic. Um, so no, I founded that company with another co-founder, and then probably 5 years ago, I think we sold it to an outfit in Australia called Family Zone, and they've continued to take that into the US. And I'm going to have to take a sip because I'm also recovering from cold. Um, Yeah, and then I took on, well, saw another problem in the process, which was data transfers, and started CouchDrop. And then in the process of building CouchDrop and taking that to market, we discovered that people were actually using it for data migrations. So CouchDrop, to give a bit of background, is effectively an SFTP server for the cloud.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've got software or systems that are needing an SFTP or FTP endpoint, and you want to bind that on top of SharePoint, for example, that's what CouchDrop does. And yeah, we we saw that people were starting to try and use it to migrate data into Google Drive, which was nuts. Didn't really fit the mold at all. And so we looked at that and thought, okay, well, maybe there isn't a migration tool for data migrations. There's certainly one for, several in the market for emails, and whatnot, and it's pretty well covered. But it seemed that there was actually a bit of a gap in terms of transferring data from the likes of, an on-prem server or SharePoint or Dropbox, these sort of systems into another platform like Google Drive. And so MoveBot was born. And so we find ourselves I found myself in a really weird position where we actually have started a company and have got two products, and both of them have quite significant growth potential and are growing. But they're sort of different in terms of who is using them, and what they're being used for, and the business model around them and whatnot. And so, yeah, fascinating sort of place to be, and quite a lot of fun, right? I get off on building stuff. That's sort of how I fit into that equation, or into the mix there.
Yeah, I guess you do describe yourself as a superhero, black ops, scientist, astronaut, hacker guy. So yeah, I can imagine
I wish.
building and
When I was 10, yeah, that's that's a dream, right? And I think my kids are starting to come up with these ridiculous aspirations. But
that's good.
I
That's
certainly wouldn't
good.
describe myself as that person now. I
Oh, all
think
good. So, I was gonna say, so kind of going back through that, you kind of stumbled on this interesting kind of bifurcation of the use case, right? Or, as users or techies would do, right? They're trying to modify one platform to accomplish another goal, and that's not necessarily intended. And so it kind of made sense for you to kind of break those two apart, and basically separate brands now, right? Separate sites, separate brands, and see, kind of MoveBot is kind of a couch drop, property. But I guess, for you, it kind of made sense to kind of take these in two different directions because the use case is different. Data, and data aside, what have you, but the actual end user and the use case is completely separate. And so, I guess, what was that kind of process of breaking these two solutions apart, or is it, kind of a hey, they're trying to solve this, so let's start from scratch and build something that solves this, or was there kind of a migration path into this new product?
there was a bit of a migration path. I mean, initially we kind of just baked the migration side into CouchDrop. We called it CouchDrop Move. It was literally another tab, and then, the naively thinking that actually the migration path was not a complicated problem to solve, right? And then we started really getting into the nitty-gritties of, trying to make this data migration pathway really, really straightforward. And it was just a cluster. There were issues, and sort of nuances all over the place. And so we said, okay, well, they can't actually be the same product. And we started the process of splitting them out. But I also discovered that a lot of companies, when they get big in tech, they tend to, they've gotten big through normally one core product, and then they kind of cap out that market and they start building other product. And that's a normal trajectory that happens all the time, right? And that's a great thing. But it dilutes the brand of the organization. And so if you're coming to a company who has, five different product suites, and they're really just different sort of tabs on a website, it's quite difficult to actually tell what that company cares about and what that company is actually building as a platform. And I think on the other side, for that organization, it's also really unclear as to what they're delivering to customers. And so from that, observing that in the markets, we made a deliberate decision to really pull the two apart and market them effectively and tell the story more effectively in terms of the two different products. And if we we have a couple of other ideas floating around, and things that we'd like to tackle as well. And I think, again, we will actually start that process with them being separate. Maybe there'll be some overlap in technology, but certainly from a product perspective, from a marketing perspective, they will be separate. So when you are coming to us for that particular use case, it's very clear what you're actually getting, as opposed to it being sort of distilled. And so we did that. We did that relatively early on, right? We created new websites. We had a new different product interface and whatnot. And then what happened for us as a company, which is pretty interesting, is I like small, lean teams, right? So I'm really, I'm quite heavy on doing things efficiently and being lean. It also makes a really strong business in terms of profitability and your ability to scale. But I found we were just constantly fighting between the two products. It was kind of almost a flavor of the day or flavor of the month, month sort of gig. And so around just before the sort of start of this year, we actually said, okay, even though there's cross sell between them, even though there is overlap in terms of who's using them, we actually need separate teams working on them and really allowing both sides to get focus from the organization. And that was, at least from a marketing standpoint, coming in and saying to the guys, okay, you're only working on MoveBot. And then another group of people, right, you are just working on CouchDrop. It's within about 2 weeks, we started to see a huge improvement in the marketing, especially for MoveBot, and the sort of inbound activity just went through the roof. So, focus is massively important, and I think going through and making that decision to actually really split the two out was probably one of the better decisions I've made. I should have made it earlier in hindsight. And now, both are actually able to grow quite aggressively in their own sort of mind, and their own, vertical, and there's no conflict in terms of, oh, we had a great month for CouchDrop, maybe we should be investing more there, or man, MoveBot is just cranking. We're getting, a huge amount of leads. There's a lot of activity, a lot of talk, and we should be putting more effort into that. They're both actually getting a lot of investment. So yeah,
well, that's a great place to be. But I don't know. I mean, I think you've done it. You've executed exceptionally well, because I agree with your point in that most companies, they're single-led product company, and then they get the bug or the idea, or maybe it's kind of a natural evolution of their platform, but then they put all of their focus on this other, and it tends to dilute the core message if not done, executed effectively. And there's countless examples of companies that have kind of spun out a next product and it's kind of gotten mediocre reception, or you kind of take velocity off what made them good in the first place. And so I think breaking these things too often, thinking about these things as two separate properties, and then putting the right kind of structure and model around each one of them, obviously in your case it's done exceptionally well, right? Because that lends to that greater efficiency, that lends to that greater
yeah,
ability to execute around this specific direction. So
I think there's another trick there as well, though. Like, it's certain splitting them out and allowing them to sort of thrive in their own market and their own world was a really good idea. But the other thing that I think typically tends to happen is, the product that brought a company into the market, when a company gets a new sort of idea, they put everything into that new idea and they forget about the old product. Which in our space, you can't. It's not like building a house, or that's probably a bad analogy, but you can't really just build a product and then leave it and reap the rewards and go on to the next thing. you actually have to continuously evolve that product and change it to meet the market, change it to meet the technology ecosystems around it. And I see, quite a few tech companies, especially in the MSP space, actually they will build something and then they'll basically just leave it. And yes, there'll be some people doing kind of BAU, patching and development on that product, but all the excitement is in the new one. And so the original product that really brought the company into the market gets almost forgotten about. And I can understand how that happens and why it happens. It's really attractive to jump on a new bandwagon and off you go. It's exciting. It's something new. It's the potential is massive, but you can't forget about your core. And so I think that's another thing that I'm really, really focused on, is making sure that, hey, both of our platforms and new platforms that we build out it's not a sort of one-off development exercise and then we push it to market. It's, hey, we're going to stick with these platforms and excuse me, keep building them out, keep evolving them. Certainly in the case of MoveBot, MoveBot is constantly changing because the cloud providers that we're moving in and out of are constantly changing. It doesn't stop, right? So yeah, I think if we can keep that going, it's a real advantage, and it'll mean that in both our spaces, we hopefully always have the best product for our target customer or our core customer there.
I imagine that data, I think a lot of people have the assumption data is data, right? Structured, unstructured, whatever, like data, and moving data from one place to another place, and you just snap your fingers and make it happen. But I imagine it's got even more complex, with the explosion of cloud applications and going from on-prem to cloud and cloud to cloud and what have you. And so I almost feel like you're at a point where you have to be almost on the offensive about how you're building, almost like predicting like where the market's going. I mean, because there's just, the explosion of data. I mean, that's understatement, but
yeah, it's a weird thing. Like you would really think that moving data is a problem that's been solved and has been solved for like 10 years or even longer, right? And it surprised us actually when we started looking at MoveBot and saw, wow, this is easy. This should be easy. And then you get into the intricacies of it, and it's, holy moly, this is actually pretty gnarly. And certainly we have to stay on top of where the market is headed, but it's pretty hard to predict what's sort of going to happen. I think in general, like, there is a lot of data still sitting on-prem, and there is a lot of data sitting in the wrong place in terms of the cloud environments, where it is. And as companies evolve to try and get the most out of their their data sets, they will need to move that around and reorganize it and whatnot. That's kind of the whole premise behind our business there. But dare I say, the sort of AI drive is pushing companies to hold on to stuff more and to try and use it. And to do that, you've got to have it in the right place, and you kind of have to be retaining it as well. So it becomes really important, like, where that data is, how it's structured, how it's set up, and even from just the user's perspective, right? If they can't find stuff because you're storing data in a service which is not really suited to your organization, you're just sort of handicapping your team. You're making it really difficult for them. So yeah, I think it will be interesting to see what happens in the space in the next few years. I think Microsoft and Google are really eating up some of the competition, and there's we're seeing a lot of people move into SharePoint, obviously, but at the same time, SharePoint is not fit for everything or every organization, and there are a lot of other platforms in the ecosystem, like Ignite, for example, that are really sort of up and coming and carving out a place in the market around sort of some key value propositions there that they offer and that are not very well served. So yeah, I don't think there's ever going to be a clear winner in that area. It's going to be fun to watch and see what happens over time.
Yeah, look, I mean, you've got a really unique scenario where, the demand only further accelerates, as the data only further accelerates. The data sprawl, the evolution of data, and just, the vast, the vast amount of data that, just, I don't know what I'm saying. It's just a data explosion that's occurring right now. It's almost like it's creating that blueprint for the marketplace for you, and it's not going to slow down, to your point, anytime soon, especially with, you got a couple of these markets converging. You've got AI, as you mentioned, then you've got kind of the backup space in general. I mean, is really, really interesting because, I can't remember the exact numbers. We did this, industry report about a month ago, and I think we had somewhere in the neighborhood of 90 different backup products that
I know.
were either
Yeah.
either surfaced as a logo or kind of cataloged in report. And yeah, it just goes to show like how massive of a market this is and how much of an impact you guys can have. And it's kind of curious because you've seen this interesting, I think, uptick in Aussie and Kiwi companies coming onto the scene, especially the last, I call it like 4 or 5 years. I don't know if it's, there was something around that kind of, I hate to say the COVID or the pandemic timeframe, but it seems like there's just been an explosion of new tech companies coming out of New Zealand in particular. And do you feel that same way, or am I just imagining things?
No, it's definitely there. I think we punch a little bit above our weight. Well, we definitely punch above our weight. That's for sure. I mean, you think about New Zealand. It's a small island in the South Pacific, right? Or in the Pacific. There's 5 million people who live here, but for the interesting thing with being a tech company in New Zealand is that we don't really have a market here in New Zealand ourselves. So we have to start and go international basically from day one.
Yeah.
Normally, when you're building a company, you want to keep it local to begin with because it's easy, right? You can sort of shoulder tap your customers and go and have face-to-face conversations with them and build the product around their needs. For us, our market is just simply not here, so we have to do things a little bit differently. We're also, there's an adage with Kiwis that we can build anything out of farming wire.
Yeah.
I think it's a number 8 wire, and yeah, we're oddly creative. Although it's not really creativity, I think it's more just we'll make things work with what we've kind
Figure
of
it
got.
out.
Yeah, figure it out. And that leads itself well to tech startups, I think, as well. We do ourselves a disservice though. We're not very showy. We're a bit more sort of conservative and shy. And I think coming into the US as a market, we probably need to make more noise.
Yeah, I mean,
and push ourselves a bit further, but yeah.
it was interesting. So, kind of going back to my ID agent days, when we were scaling that business, we were looking at different markets. Obviously, we were U.S. based and we were scaling, exceptionally well. And then we looked at EMEA. We thought, hey, it's only 6, 7 hour, 8 hour flight, and that was kind of the next logical progression. So we did a little of that, but we didn't take off quite as fast as we thought in the EMEA market. But man, get down to New Zealand, get down to Australia, and it moved quite rather fast. And so I almost feel like the kind of the reception to tech, the tech scene in general. called second to kind of North America. But I think in a lot of ways, a lot of respects, it's more progressive or aggressive when it comes to technology adoption and in kind
Yeah,
of driving change.
yeah. We do have quite a strong community, right? So I think because there's so few tech companies here that are taking on, well, we're effectively taking on the world. We do talk to each other and sort of trade tips and whatnots, and that helps, without a doubt, and it probably makes sort of market acquisition a bit easier as well. And over here, right? It's Australia is a little bit different. Australia is a massive country, so it's sort of more sprawled out. But
Yeah,
New Zealand, we're pretty
fragmented.
condensed, and so yeah, if you were coming into the market here, you'd probably get more bang for your buck in terms of covering or coverage by just sort of focusing on one area. Then it will kind of propagate out pretty quickly.
Yeah.
It's always fun
So
when we're talking to people to talk about New Zealand. Everyone sort of says, come on, I've got to get over there. What should I do when I get? How long do I need? Like, where do I go to? Do I go to Hobbiton, or uh, where is everything? And yeah, it's a good talking point.
yeah, no doubt. Um, so when we were doing ID Agent, Matt, he likes to tell the story that, we're all right. He's like, I have this hunch that we go down to, down to APAC and we'll do well or whatever. And he's like, I'm willing to put my own money up and pay for my own flight. I'm like, no, you're absolutely not. We're gonna commit. We're gonna do it. But I think the first time went down there, maybe did like a 5 or 6 city tour between both New Zealand and Australia. And he liked to tell the story on the stage that the CEO said, absolutely not. I'm not paying for you to fly down there, and you have to pay it yourself. And if you sign X number of MSPs, then and only then will I pay. And I've never said that. Just want to put it out there publicly. But that was definitely he got a lot of mileage out of that one. I remember one of the DattoCons, all these Aussies and New Zealanders come in and they're like, there he is, that's the guy. I'm like, so I had this rap for a while. But no, it seriously, it's yeah, I think it's generally accepted that it is a pretty progressive tech environment. And it's cool to see that the tech, the entrepreneurship scene is evolving so rapidly. And I know maybe most, and this is an assumption, but maybe most of APAC starts to look at probably the going up to Taiwan and going kind of the more geographically closer before going to North America. Maybe they don't. Maybe it's inverse. Maybe it depends on the
No,
part.
I think
No.
yeah, Australia, or as a tech company in Australia, you have a bigger audience locally, definitely, right? So
Yeah.
you have a decent sized population, but yeah, the US, Canada, this is normally sort of market number one, outside of what is available locally. The local market is decent for testing,
Yeah.
and for those really early stages, it's quite good because again, you can tap into people who are in the same city as you, and there are of course MSPs here. There's heaps of them.
Yeah. Yeah. No doubt.
But after that, you have to sort of go into the US. You can do Australia as a New Zealand company, but most of our marketing efforts are, most of our sales activities are all inbound. And so you start, regardless of what you do, you start getting customers coming from North America, and then it just makes sense to sort of focus on that region. And the time zones are not too bad, right? Comparatively to Europe, which is really tough for us here. It's global, and we have a strong audience and strong customer base in Europe. North America is just easier. Can have some of my team members starting early New Zealand time, and they basically cover that market for support and sales and account management. And whereas Europe is basically 12 hours, and the fastest we can get there is 29 hours. It's
Wow.
most of the time a 30-hour flight with several layovers. So yeah, it's tough. Whereas the
Yeah.
US is easy.
Tough and a commitment. So on both sides of the equation, we talked about kind of AI, talk about just, the growth in data is not going to slow down. What do these platforms look like? How do you evolve over the next couple of years? Is it just kind of watching the trend lines and kind of expanding the kind of the platform or the scope of integration, or do you have new tricks up your sleeve? What's coming up the next 12-24 months for you guys?
Yeah, quite a lot, to be honest. But the tricky part is, like, we have other markets and not other markets per se, but other products which would sort of, we have an advantage in terms of being able to build them out potentially quite quickly. Like you mentioned, backups, for example. We have people using MoveBot as a backup tool, and I don't think that's a good use of MoveBot at the moment. But there's certainly some things we could do there that makes sense. And we also have, we're in a unique position, whereas where our scan functionality and allows us to see quite a lot in terms of the data set that companies are working with. There's some stuff there that we could do as well. However, I'm super reluctant to go and build other product at the cost of the existing products, right? So I think we've done an all right job of solving both the SFTP issues that our customers are facing and the data migration issues that our customers are facing. But there's a lot more that we can actually do in that space. And so I want to make sure that we're not by building sort of other key features and functionality, or even other platforms or products, that we're not hurting ourselves and hurting our customers who are using the MoveBot and CouchDrop at the moment. So I'm really keen on playing to our kind of core strengths and just making sure that MoveBot hypothetically is the best multi-platform data migration tool in the market for MSPs and for anybody who's moving large sets of data. And that's there's just looking at how people are using the product now and what they're doing, some of the issues that they're coming up against. There's a lot of stuff that we can still be doing there and make better and sort of streamline that process for MSPs. So I think that's probably where our focus is going to be, and we will, I've got my sort of finger a little bit on the pulse as far as what's happening in the backup space. I agree, there's a lot of companies playing in that area. I think you said 90, and I think there's definitely more than that, and they can't. They can't all win, and even though that it's a growth market, I think businesses are sort of being pushed into having backups and needing better data security. I'm cognizant of, okay, if we were to build out a backup tool specifically utilizing MoveBot's technology, which would be a great fit. I'm not sure whether that would be the right decision. So yeah, we see there's some cool ideas in the mix that we are floating around, but I don't want to stop building the best data migration or best multi-platform data migration tool. I want the team to continue delivering on that sort of promise, and at the same time being the best, in the CouchDrop context, being the best SFTP solution for small to medium businesses as well. So, yeah.
I love it. I mean, I was just scrambling to pulling up the report under IT management. You guys are one of the highest rated products across like in the IT
Cool.
management category. It's there's hundreds and hundreds. I think we have 257 different organizations, and you're right at the top. 7 or 8 tools across. Yeah, across. yeah, across the entire industry. But again, I appreciate that kind of the way you're approaching this because you do. I mean, you can be categorized in kind of this IT management, kind of, operational kind of product categories, but then you can very easily, you could very easily pivot into compliance, security, backup, with the way that you're structured. So
Very
it's
seductive.
yeah, no, I can imagine, and that's in any tech
Yeah.
founder or any CEO, like is listening. I mean, pay attention because yeah, it is. It's often so easy just to run in multiple directions, and at the
Yeah.
end of the day, then you're still running in multiple directions and not running straight line to an outcome, and that does take a lot of discipline. So
It
well done
is.
to you, man. Yeah,
I don't think we've totally succeeded in that yet. So I think the fact that we've got two products alone is kind of an indication that somewhere down the track we've fallen victim to that. But
yeah.
actually, recently, so we did in MoveBot in particular, we built out what we called Explorer, which was kind of the beginnings of a data management tool for companies. And we also did tasks, which was snapshots, so the beginnings of a backup. I actually made the decision, I think 5 months ago, to rip it out.
Hmm.
So we receded on that because again, we got sucked in. It was seductive. It was like, this is this
It's
data
too
security
easy.
stuff is
Yeah,
super
yeah,
interesting. Like,
yeah.
and the same with the backups. It's like, well, come on, backups. There's so many companies doing it, but they're not doing it right. We could do it right. And then, I realized that, hey, like we're pumping this energy in and we're doing a crap job with the core MoveBot proposition now. We haven't kept up with that. And so we ripped it out, which I don't think anyone was really terribly upset about. And certainly internally, it was like, awesome. We are now just focused on, right, why are people using MoveBot, and
Yeah.
how can we make that align those sort of two things? Whereas, this is what we think people should be using MoveBot for, and this is what people are actually using it for, right? Let's pull those together and make sure that we're delivering perfectly on that promise. And we're not, obviously, because that's a super hard thing to do, and I'm probably never going to be happy in that realm. But we are doing a much better job without the sort of distraction of the next feature or vertical, and yeah. I can't promise
Wow.
I will be able to resist that urge, though. Uh, hopefully someone in the team will kind of clip me around the ears when I start talking too much about backups or something.
Mm. Well, I'll be tuning in, pinging you periodically to see if you've done it yet. Have you done it yet? I won't be egging you on. I'll be very
Yeah,
stoic in my
don't encourage me.
questioning. But
Come on. Yeah.
yeah, no, that's great.
No,
So
we right.
what's the best way to get a hold of the organizations?
We're really easy to get a hold of. You can email me if you have some ideas in the space. Just Michael at Couchdrop or at MoveBot. But if you're interested about the tools and want to have a look at MoveBot or want to have a look at Couchdrop, then you can just book a call with our team on our website or email, and either sales or support at MoveBot or at Couchdrop.io, and would love to have a chat with you. We are in a different time zone, but we do have people in the US, and we are pretty easy to get a hold of, and would love to have a chat. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Michael, thanks for doing this, especially both of us
Yeah, thanks
fighting
for
these
having
these colds. But yeah, I'm excited to see where you guys end up taking this. I think the execution is incredible. The opportunities are, I think, pretty interesting. But yeah, just seeing you kind of walk that line and and just executing and being the best at what you're at is, I think, is pretty damn solid. So
Yeah,
as you guys say down there, good on you for that one. So cool.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man.
It's good.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.